Hey gang, it's time for an update. For those of you who are new here, welcome. My name is Jeremy and I produce an educational show called Engage. Our ongoing mission here is to help make the practice of leveraging games for learning more accessible to educators everywhere. And most recently, we dove into the depths of Aperture Science to put Portal 2's level editor to the test with supporting project-based learning opportunities in algebra, geometry, probability, statistics, and even spatial intelligence. And we explored how blueprints open doors to project-based learning opportunities in art, design, and the humanities. And today, I'm excited to share that I have not one, but two new episodes in the works. One featuring a game-based learning experience that I designed that was inspired by the innovative asymmetric co-op game Keep Talking and Nobody Explodes, and another taking an ambitious look at how educators could leverage this little-known French game you might have heard of that blew everyone's minds in 2025 called Clair Obscur Expedition 33. And I know what you're thinking. How on earth could a game like that be used for educational purposes? Well, if you want to find out sooner rather than later, please consider backing production of this fine educational program over at patreon.com/engageshow. And let's talk about our Patreon for a moment. When I first launched a Patreon to rally support for producing an educational program dedicated to helping innovative educators discover how to leverage games for learning, I knew that producing each new episode of Engage was going to require a considerable time investment because it takes time to gain enough familiarity with the inner workings of a game or gaming format in order to develop ideas for how these tools can be leveraged to support academic, media literacy, and social emotional learning. And also, crucially, be able to put those ideas to the test to see whether they're actually viable when you take all of the realities of a classroom environment into account. And to be clear, when I say gaming formats, we're talking board games, card games, video games, but we're also talking tabletop roleplay, live action roleplay, or LARP, alternate reality games, or ARGs, augmented reality, mixed reality, virtual reality, the whole nine. And the enormous potential for all of these gaming formats to shape impactful learning experiences is absolutely worthy of continuing to explore. And I gotta say, I love the coincidence of that actually being 9 categories that I just listed. When I said the whole 9, that was purely a coincidence when I wrote this, but I love how that worked out. Now, originally, knowing how much time it would probably take to produce each new episode of Engage, I had decided that the most fair way to rally support for producing this educational show would be to use the pay-per-creation model on Patreon instead of their monthly subscription model. Because originally, I did not think it would be very fair to ask you, my supporters, to pay a monthly fee knowing full well that there's going to be large gaps of time in between new full episodes. And as much as I would really love to produce this show on a more consistent monthly basis, that's just incredibly challenging to do given the intricate nature of its content as I just described, and the fact that you're looking at the whole production team behind the show. I mean, I would love to have a budget to actually hire a team to be able to produce this show on a more consistent monthly basis, but I don't. It's just me. You're looking at the whole production team. It's this guy. That's it. It's me. Now, the reason I'm bringing all of this up today is because I was actually excited to make an announcement that we were about to simplify the Patreon for Engage down to just one single tier of pay-per-creation support. But then I discovered this blog post from Patreon themselves announcing that they were going to completely discontinue the pay-per-creation model and essentially force all creators to adopt the monthly subscription model by November 2026. So what does that mean for Engage moving forward? Well, I've decided to just go ahead and rip off that Band-Aid right now and go ahead and switch over to Patreon's monthly subscription model. And while that's not the direction for Engage that I originally intended to pursue, after giving it much thought, I've come to realize that it might actually be for the best when thinking about how the show could grow and evolve over time. I have seen other creators on Patreon find success with this monthly subscription model while being completely upfront with their audiences about how long their process will take, not just for producing episodes of a show on YouTube, but for music albums and entire full feature films and more. And as anyone who has ever watched or supported Engage all these years can attest, that is the kind of transparency and integrity you can expect on this educational program. As one low-hanging fruit sort of example, the easily shareable bite-sized vertical video format that TikTok helped explode in popularity didn't exist when I started producing Engage for a YouTube audience. And while I have been experimenting with cutting shorts from existing content to help promote full episodes airing on YouTube, one new possibility could be exploring how to leverage this relatively and comparably new video format beyond simply using it as a promotional utility. And it would definitely make more sense to rally support on a monthly basis for producing that kind of bite-sized content rather than a pay-per-creation model. Another example of how I would love for the show to continue to grow and evolve is somewhat ironically to be able to go back to where it all began, with incorporating more interview-based content, because Engage actually started out as a way to provide innovative educators and game designers who were working together with a platform to be able to share their innovative work with the world. And while institutions that made that kind of unique and innovative collaboration possible on a more year-round basis sadly no longer seem to exist, maybe Engage could play a part in reviving some of that magic. And there are other types of content that I've long thought about experimenting with on this channel, like maybe a more tutorial-focused series dedicated to a specific game or gaming format that offers more granular guidance or implementation beyond the scope of what a normal quote-unquote episode of Engage offers. Or maybe something a bit more casual and fun, like a top 10 list pertaining to various topics about game-based learning to encourage more conversations about these topics. We'll see. In any case, starting today, when you visit patreon.com/engageshow, you will see that everything has been simplified down to just one tier of support, and that support tier is now a monthly support tier. And from what I have seen when testing this out personally, as of April 2026, when I log on to Patreon as a backer, and I visit the Patreon pages of other creators that I have supported over the years, after you select Become a Member, or the button might say Upgrade or Upgrade to Paid, depending on your current level of support for that creator, you will then be prompted to select a tier of support, and then you'll be prompted to submit payment details. When you go through this process on patreon.com/engageshow, you will see that the minimum has been set to $2 a month. And if you'd like to contribute more to support production of this educational program, I will leave that decision entirely up to you. Whatever you decide, please know that I value your generosity and your continued support. And in the interest of transparency, the reason why I decided to go with $2 as the minimum for this new monthly subscription model that all Patreon creators are now being essentially forced to switch to is because the majority of our generous supporters on Engage historically have contributed under the pay-per-creation model at $10 per episode. And considering that I was only able to produce 2 new episodes throughout the entirety of 2025, because I had been spending the majority of my time searching for and applying to new career opportunities, that is why I thought it would be reasonable to have this new minimum for this new monthly support tier at $2 a month, because when you do the math, that comes out to about $24 a year. And I figured that would be reasonable, basically around the same amount of money for that same amount of content, at least of what I was able to make happen in 2025. And while I would absolutely love to produce more than just 2 new episodes throughout 2026, I think it is at least reasonable to aim for that being a starting goal under this new monthly subscription model. Again, my goal in sharing all of this with you today is to be open and honest about how Engage is made and to set realistic expectations for its content under the present conditions. And I really do want to thank everybody who has watched the show over the years and has generously chosen to back production of this show financially over at patreon.com/engageshow. It really is a labor of love for me, and even all these years later, there's actually still no other comparable show like it on YouTube that really explores the power that games have to support learning in all different kinds of ways, and has been open to exploring all different kinds of games and gaming formats, not just being laser focused on just board games or just video games or just LARPs, really looking at everything that is possible out there. And for those of you who are new here, thank you so much for watching this update and for considering to back production of this educational program over at patreon.com/engageshow. Really, thank you so much for taking the time. And this has been a long-awaited update for Engage, where learning through play is the name of the game. We'll see you again soon.